Tiffany Henyard, the embattled mayor of Dalton, Illinois, is facing a mounting crisis as she contends with a stunning federal investigation into her years of corruption and financial mismanagement. Once hailed as a charismatic leader, Henyard's tenure is now marked by a trail of extravagant spending and abuses of power that have left Dalton financially crippled. With a $36 million deficit, the town's resources have been drained under Henyard's leadership. While she continued to live a life of luxury funded by taxpayer dollars, an investigation into Henyard's misconduct began months ago, triggered by growing rumors and subpoenas that hinted at deep corruption. These led to the discovery of a range of abuses, including Henyard's reckless spending on personal luxuries, which only exacerbated Dalton's already fragile finances. One of the most blatant examples of Henyard's misuse of taxpayer funds came in September 2023, when she embarked on a shopping spree that cost over $7,700 at stores like Target, Walgreens, and Wayfair. This was just one of many instances of lavish spending, which included frequent upgrades to her travel arrangements, often with her personal hair and makeup team in tow, all at the town's expense. The town's financial situation deteriorated rapidly during her time in office. The $5.6 million surplus that Dalton had once enjoyed was completely drained within a year, pushing the community closer to bankruptcy. Henyard's travel expenses alone amounted to over $112,000, a significant sum that further destabilized the town's finances. But perhaps the most shocking example of her abuse of power came when she funneled $561,000 from the town's budget to pay for the paving of her mother's driveway, a blatant act of corruption that came at the expense of Dalton's struggling residents in addition to her lavish spending. Henyard misused Dalton's police force as her personal security detail. Officers were diverted from their duties and tasked with running personal errands for the mayor, further contributing to the town's destabilization and leaving crime unchecked. The mounting evidence of Henyard's misconduct, including the lavish $555,000 party she hosted to boost her public image despite her credit card privileges being revoked, ultimately led to the unraveling of her political career. The event featured performances from artists like Wyclef Jean and Jay, with a staggering $36,000 spent on sound systems, staff, and entertainment, all paid for by taxpayers for an event that attracted only 70 attendees. Outrage among Dalton's residents was palpable as they saw their town spiral into financial ruin, while Henyard lived a life of excess. Former trustee Valeria Stubbs and local resident Jennifer Roberts publicly voiced their frustrations with Henyard's self-serving behavior. The tipping point came when Carmen Carroll, a former ally of Henyard, became a whistleblower. After witnessing 2 years of financial mismanagement and corruption, Carroll provided federal authorities with critical evidence, including receipts detailing Henyard's extravagant spending. This revelation ignited public outrage and played a key role in expanding the federal investigation into Henyard's actions as the investigation deepened. It became apparent that Henyard's corruption might have extended beyond her personal actions to include political allies and business connections. The FBI began deploying advanced surveillance techniques to monitor not just Henyard, but also those in her inner circle. Rumors swirled that other individuals close to Henyard could soon face similar scrutiny for their potential involvement in the corruption. Despite the mounting evidence against her, Henyard continued to present a facade of normalcy, refusing to acknowledge the growing discontent among Dalton's residents. Her refusal to take responsibility for the town's fiscal mess only fueled the anger of those who had trusted her. The stark contrast between Henyard's lavish lifestyle and the economic struggles of Dalton citizens created a widening rift between the mayor and the people she was meant to serve. However, the situation took a dramatic turn when Henyard made the unexpected decision to surrender voluntarily to the FBI. This move shocked the community, as Henyard had once been seen as untouchable. Her surrender marked a pivotal moment in the scandal, signaling the potential collapse of her political empire. It also sent shockwaves through Dalton, leaving residents to wonder what would come next as federal charges mounted. Henyard faced a total of 22 federal charges, including misappropriation of funds and concealing millions of taxpayer dollars. The charges, combined with the ongoing investigation, could result in up to 25 years in prison. The people of Dalton are now left to pick up the pieces of their town, which is left reeling from the financial disaster Henyard created. What began as a promising political career for Henyard has turned into a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating consequences of corruption. Henyard's reign as mayor of Dalton will likely go down in history as a cautionary tale about the corrupting influence of absolute power. As the investigation continues and federal authorities uncover more of her financial mismanagement, it is clear that the damage done to Dalton will take years to repair. The scandal has left the town grappling with its future, questioning how someone entrusted with public office could have so egregiously exploited the very resources they were meant to protect in the wake of Henyard's arrest and the ongoing federal investigation. Dalton's residents are now faced with the difficult task of rebuilding their community. They will have to contend with the deep financial hole left behind by Henyard's reckless actions, while also grappling with the emotional toll of having been betrayed by a leader they once trusted. As the dust settles and the legal process unfolds, the people of Dalton can only hope for a brighter future. Free from the corruption and mismanagement that characterized Henyard's time in office, the saga of Tiffany Henyard's rise and fall will undoubtedly be remembered as one of the most dramatic and shocking political scandals in the history of Dalton, Illinois. It serves as a grim reminder of how power can corrupt and how vital it is for leaders to be held accountable for their actions. For the residents of Dalton, the road to recovery will be long and challenging, but with each passing day, they are one step closer to rebuilding the town they once called home. Tiffany Henyard's surrender to federal authorities marks a turning point in a larger investigation into the corruption that has plagued the town of Dalton, Illinois, for years. The fate of Henyard, along with those who may have enabled her actions, now hangs in the balance as the FBI's probe continues. The residents of Dalton, once hopeful and optimistic, are left in the wake of a staggering $36 million deficit, a fractured community, and shattered public trust. The road to recovery is uncertain, and as Henyard faces legal consequences, the citizens of Dalton must rebuild their town, while the full extent of corruption is unraveled. Henyard's rise and fall serve as a chilling cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power. Her selfish greed has left a trail of destruction that will echo through Dalton for years to come. As the investigation progresses, more details are emerging, and the people of Dalton are left grappling with the aftermath of Henyard's reign. Her name has become synonymous with betrayal, and the journey toward justice now feels long overdue. With the FBI closely monitoring her every move, the full scale of her financial mismanagement is expected to unfold in the coming months, potentially leading to far-reaching consequences not only for Henyard, but also for those who enabled her rise to power despite the growing storm of controversy. Henyard's dramatic surrender to federal authorities came as a shock to Dalton's residents. After clinging tightly to her lavish lifestyle for so long, many wondered why Henyard would suddenly abandon it all and step into federal custody. Speculation grew that her surrender could be part of a strategic move, perhaps an attempt to strike a deal with prosecutors in exchange for leniency. In this scenario, she might expose others involved in her alleged schemes, potentially signaling the beginning of the end of the scandal and a path to justice. Once seen as untouchable, Henyard now faces the very real prospect of legal consequences, and her decision to surrender represents a dramatic shift in Dalton's relationship with its local government. The once invincible mayor's image has been shattered, and her voluntary surrender has given the public a glimmer of hope that justice may finally be served. However, as Henyard faces federal charges, the fallout from her actions continues to reverberate throughout Dalton. The town, already grappling with a crippling financial crisis, now has to contend with the staggering costs of her alleged corruption and growing distrust in their leadership. The residents of Dalton are left to pick up the pieces, questioning how their town reached this point and wondering what it will take to rebuild its shattered financial reputation. Henyard's rise and fall have become a cautionary tale, underscoring how unchecked power can corrupt and destroy entire communities. As the investigation continues, Dalton's future remains uncertain. The citizens who once entrusted Henyard with their town's welfare now face the daunting task of rebuilding not just their finances, but also the very fabric of their community. The rise and fall of Tiffany Henyard represents corruption, excess, and the betrayal of public trust. Once a town proud of its leadership, Dalton now finds itself reeling from the consequences of unchecked power and greed. Henyard, who once presented herself as the super mayor of Dalton, lived a lavish lifestyle funded by taxpayer dollars, while the town spiraled into financial ruin under her leadership. With Dalton now facing a $36 million deficit, its residents are left grappling with the fallout of Henyard's reckless financial mismanagement. The future of Dalton is uncertain, and the long road to recovery includes rebuilding not only the town's finances, but also its faith in the system that failed them. The damage caused by Henyard's actions will take years to heal, but the possibility of justice offers a glimmer of hope. Federal investigators are continuing their work, and the people of Dalton are waiting for a reckoning, hoping that Henyard and all those involved in the scandal will be held accountable. Her sudden surrender to federal authorities is seen by some as a first step toward this long overdue reckoning, although the wounds caused by her corruption will take years to mend. As the investigation deepens, it becomes clear that the corruption runs deeper than initially imagined. Henyard's misuse of public funds, including extravagant spending on personal travel, shopping sprees, and lavish parties, has left the people of Dalton angry and disillusioned. Perhaps the most damning revelation came from Henyard's former ally, Carmen Carroll, who blew the whistle on Henyard's financial mismanagement. Carroll's testimony and evidence exposed the full extent of Henyard's corruption, causing the once impregnable web of deceit to begin unraveling. As the investigation expanded, federal authorities began piecing together a picture of systemic financial negligence and abuse of power, extending beyond Henyard herself to include political ties and personal ventures. Henyard, who once seemed untouchable, now faces 22 federal charges, including misappropriation of funds. If convicted, she could spend decades behind bars. Her glamorous public image has been shattered, and reports are emerging that she can no longer afford to pay her legal bills, leading her lawyer to abandon her case. This signals the collapse of her political and personal influence, further underscoring the extent of her fall from power. For the people of Dalton, Henyard's downfall has become a symbol of the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating consequences of corruption. The road to recovery for Dalton is long and fraught with challenges. The residents must contend with the fiscal ruin left behind by Henyard's actions, but they also face the emotional toll of being betrayed by a leader they once trusted. As the investigation continues, they are left to wonder how their town could have been brought to its knees by one person's unchecked greed. Yet, with the hope of justice on the horizon, Dalton's future, while uncertain, holds the possibility of rebuilding, a chance to restore not just the town's finances, but its trust in the leaders who serve the town of Dalton, once thriving and full of hope, now finds itself grappling with the devastating consequences of Tiffany Henyard's leadership. Her self-serving actions have left a legacy of fiscal ruin and fractured trust, exposing the dangerous consequences of unchecked power. As the investigation into her corruption unfolds, the people of Dalton are left to wonder if they can ever heal from the damage she caused. The scandal surrounding Henyard's administration underscores a critical need for accountability and transparency in local government. It serves as a stark reminder that corruption, if left unchecked, can have far-reaching consequences not just for those involved, but for the entire community. As federal authorities continue to investigate, the hope for justice persists. Though the road to recovery is long, Henyard's downfall has shattered her once glamorous image and exposed the systemic failures that allowed her to operate with impunity for so long. Henyard's reckless decisions, including extravagant spending and financial mismanagement, have left Dalton in dire financial straits. The town is reportedly nearly $20 million in debt, with millions of taxpayer dollars unaccounted for. What was once a vibrant community is now reeling from years of corruption and mismanagement, and its residents are left to pick up the pieces of their fractured government and broken economy. The damage inflicted on the community is profound, and the emotional toll of betrayal is felt deeply by those who once placed their trust in Henyard's leadership. In a desperate move to salvage the town's future, Dalton has hired former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot at a hefty rate of $400 per hour to help clean up the mess Henyard created. This drastic measure highlights the gravity of the situation and underscores the monumental task of recovering from the financial disaster Henyard's administration left behind. The scope of the damage is staggering, and the town now faces an uphill battle to restore its finances, and its reputation. The investigation into Henyard's actions has revealed a pattern of widespread financial mismanagement and personal indulgence. During her time in office, her spending sprees, including a notorious $440,000 on Amazon in a single day, demonstrating her unchecked excess while the town's economy faltered. As federal authorities continue to probe her actions, Dalton's residents are left to wonder how long it will take to rebuild their financial health and reputation. The betrayal they feel from Henyard's misuse of public funds is profound, and they are searching for answers, hoping that justice will be served despite the damage to their faith in local leadership. The residents of Dalton are presented with an opportunity for change. The ongoing investigation, along with the potential for further revelations, offers them the chance to see justice done and begin the long process of rebuilding a community devastated by corruption. Henyard's downfall may mark the beginning of a painful recovery, but it also presents an opportunity to restore the integrity of Dalton's government. The lessons learned from the scandal can be a catalyst for change, ensuring that future leaders are held accountable and that the town does not repeat the mistakes of the past. As the investigation into Tiffany Henyard's actions continues, the people of Dalton are left to reckon with the lasting damage caused by her financial mismanagement and abuse of power. Henyard's eventual surrender to federal authorities, while offering a glimmer of hope for accountability, marks only the beginning of a long and difficult journey to restore trust in Dalton's government. Her history of financial recklessness and self-serving behavior has left the town in a state of financial collapse. With the community struggling to recover from the mess she created, the financial fallout from Henyard's actions is severe, and Dalton's residents are still reeling from the aftermath. The Illinois state comptroller was forced to intervene, halting crucial $135,000 payments to the town's residents, a devastating blow that has left the community in limbo. Even after Henyard's resignation and her subsequent surrender, the financial wreckage she left behind continues to cast a long shadow over Dalton, making it clear that recovery will be a slow and painful process. However, the damage caused by Henyard's administration goes far beyond the town's depleted finances. Former employees have come forward with alarming allegations, including lawsuits for wrongful termination after refusing to participate in unethical schemes. One such employee, Trish Bond, has filed a lawsuit against Henyard, adding to the legal and ethical challenges Henyard now faces. These lawsuits highlight the toxic and oppressive work environment fostered by Henyard's leadership, where those who dared to oppose her were allegedly punished. In addition to financial mismanagement, Henyard's administration has been marred by serious allegations of sexual misconduct, including claims of sexual assault against staff members during city visits. These accusations, along with allegations of intimidation and retaliation against those who oppose her, have shattered Henyard's previously polished public image. Instead of the charismatic leader she once portrayed herself to be, Henyard is now seen as a symbol of corruption, abuse of power, and exploitation as these new allegations come to light. Public outrage has deepened, leaving Dalton's residents shaken and disgusted by the woman they once trusted to lead them. For many, seeing Henyard in handcuffs was a moment of relief, symbolizing a step toward reclaiming their town from what many have referred to as an era of doom. However, Henyard's surrender has raised as many questions as it has answered. Many speculate that her decision to turn herself may be part of a larger strategy, perhaps an attempt to manipulate the system in her favor. Some believe that Henyard may be negotiating for a settlement or trying to shield others involved in her corrupt schemes. Her continued presence as mayor, despite mounting criminal charges, has raised serious concerns about the integrity of the legal system and the power dynamics at play. The fact that she remained in office for as long as she did, despite overwhelming evidence against her, suggests that the fight for accountability is far from over. Her defiance and reluctance to relinquish her position have only fueled suspicions that she was attempting to stall justice, using her power to delay the inevitable reckoning. As the FBI continues its investigation, it remains uncertain whether Henyard's voluntary surrender will lead to meaningful consequences, or if her calculated actions will further prolong the community's suffering. Regardless, the people of Dalton are left with the daunting task of rebuilding their town. Their trust in leadership is shattered, and their faith in the legal system is profoundly shaken. The road to recovery will be long, but for Dalton's residents, the hope for justice, however distant, remains their guiding light in this dark chapter of their town's history. The fate of Dalton's future remains uncertain. What was once a community full of hope is now left with the painful task of rebuilding its finances and trust in government. Henyard's actions have left an indelible mark on Dalton, one that will likely take years to erase. The investigation into her misconduct is ongoing, and more revelations may come to light in the coming months. The residents of Dalton are anxiously waiting for justice, hoping that the truth will be revealed and that those responsible for their town's downfall will finally be held accountable in the wake of Henyard's scandal. Dalton faces an uncertain future, but the opportunity for change exists. If the investigation leads to justice and accountability, Dalton can begin the long process of healing, restoring its reputation, and rebuilding the trust in its leadership that was lost under Henry's corrupt reign. Only time will tell if the people of Dalton can rebuild the town that was once their pride and joy, or if the consequences of Henyard's actions will continue to haunt them for years to come.